One image, endless questions. There are moments in history that are captured in words, others in memory, but a few are frozen in time. A single frame, a fraction of a second, yet powerful enough to divide opinions, challenge beliefs, and reshape how we see the world. This is the story of a photograph. Not just any photograph, but one that sparked debate across nations, generations, and ideologies. A photo that forced people to ask, what really happened? Who was right? And what truth does an image actually tell? Because sometimes a picture doesn't just show reality. It questions it. The day seemed ordinary. No one present could have predicted what was about to unfold. The air carried tension, but also routine. People moved. Voices echoed. Life continued. Then, in a single moment, everything changed. A photographer, trained to observe, to anticipate, raised their camera. They saw something others might have ignored. Something fleeting. Something powerful. And they pressed the shutter. That click, barely audible in the chaos of the world, would echo for decades. The power of a single frame. Photography has always held a unique power. Unlike words, it doesn't explain. Unlike video, it doesn't unfold. It captures, it freezes, it isolates, and in doing so, it invites interpretation. What you see may not be what someone else sees, and that's where the power and the danger begins. Because a photograph doesn't come with context. It doesn't tell you what happened before or what happened after. It shows you one moment and leaves the rest to your imagination. The image goes public. At first, the photograph was just one among many, filed, reviewed, processed. But then, someone noticed it. Something about it stood out. Maybe it was the emotion, the composition, or the tension captured within it. Whatever it was, it demanded attention. Soon it was published, printed in newspapers, shared in magazines, discussed on television, and within days, it spread far beyond its original setting. People stopped, looked, and reacted. First reactions. The reactions were immediate and intense. Some saw injustice. Others saw necessity. Some felt anger. Others felt justification. The same image, yet completely different interpretations. It sparked arguments. In homes, in workplaces, in public spaces. People debated what they were seeing. Not just the image, but what it represented. And that's when it became clear this was no ordinary photograph. What the image showed, at the center of the photograph, was a moment of confrontation, a clash between individuals, between forces, between perspectives. The details were striking, expressions frozen in time, body language that spoke louder than words, an atmosphere thick with emotion. To some, it looked like cruelty. To others, it looked like control. And to many, it raised more questions than answers. The story behind the frame. As the debate grew, so did the demand for answers. People wanted to know what led to this moment. Who were the people involved? What happened next? Journalists began to investigate. Witnesses were interviewed. Backgrounds were examined. And slowly, a more complete picture began to emerge. But instead of resolving the debate, it made things even more complicated. Context changes everything. With context, the image began to shift. Details that were invisible at first glance suddenly became important. What seemed clear became uncertain. What seemed obvious became questionable. Because context has a way of reshaping perception. And in this case, it divided opinions even further. Some people changed their views. Others became more certain. And the debate intensified. Media amplification. The media played a crucial role. Headlines were written. Stories were framed. Narratives were built. Some outlets focused on one angle. Others focused on another. Each interpretation added fuel to the fire. The photograph became more than an image. It became a symbol, a representation of larger issues. And as it spread, so did its impact. Public division. Communities began to divide. Conversations turned into arguments. Arguments turned into conflicts. People took sides, not just on the photograph, but on what it stood for: values, beliefs, ideologies. The image became a mirror, reflecting not just reality, but the perspectives of those who viewed it. The subjects speak. Eventually, the individuals in the photograph spoke out. Their voices added new layers to the story. They described what they experienced, what they felt, what they intended. But even their accounts did not settle the debate, because memory is subjective, experience is personal, and truth is often more complex than it appears. Expert analysis. Experts weighed in. Historians, analysts, photographers. They examined the image in detail. Angles, timing, lighting, body language. They tried to reconstruct the moment, to understand what really happened. But even among experts, there was no complete agreement, because interpretation remains human. The role of bias. Bias plays a powerful role in perception. What we believe shapes what we see. And this photograph became a perfect example of that. Two people could look at the same image and walk away with completely different conclusions, not because the image changed, but because they did. The digital age effect. As time passed, the photograph entered the digital world, shared online, discussed on social media, analyzed by millions. And with that, the debate reached a global audience. People from different cultures, different backgrounds, different beliefs, all weighed in, and the interpretations multiplied. Misinformation and distortion. With widespread attention came misinformation, altered versions of the image, false captions, misleading narratives. Some people use the photograph to push their own agendas, and in doing so, they distorted its meaning. This made the debate even more chaotic, because now the argument wasn't just about the image, but about what was true, the ethics of photography. The photograph also raised ethical questions. Should it have been taken? Should it have been published? What responsibility does a photographer have? To document or to intervene? These questions don't have easy answers, but they are important because they shape how history is recorded. The human element at the heart of the debate were real people, not symbols, not headlines, but individuals with lives, with emotions, with consequences. And sometimes that human element gets lost in the noise, in the arguments, in the interpretations. Time passes, debate remains. Years went by. The world changed. New events took center stage. But the photograph remained. It continued to be discussed, analyzed, referenced, because some images never lose their relevance. What it teaches us. This photograph teaches us something important. That images are powerful, but they are not complete. They show us something real, but not everything real. And if we're not careful, we can mistake a moment for the whole story. The search for truth. In the end, the debate was never fully resolved, because truth is rarely simple, especially when it's captured in a single frame. What remains is the conversation, the questioning, the awareness, looking beyond the frame. The next time you see a powerful image, pause, look closer, ask questions, because what you're seeing may be only part of the story. And sometimes the truth exists just outside the frame. A photograph can show you a moment, but only curiosity can show you the truth.